Imagine a man walking away from you, thinking he has all the time in the world, not realizing the power you hold to make him regret it. What if I told you that the way you respond in those moments could be the key to not just getting his attention back, but keeping it for good? Stick with me, because in this video I'm about to reveal 6 powerful ways you can make a man always return to you. And trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. There's something incredibly attractive about a woman who knows her worth. The kind of woman who doesn't flinch when someone doesn't meet her standards, who doesn't chase after breadcrumbs of affection or attention. She stands tall in her value, not because she wants to impress anyone, but because she's worked hard to become the kind of person who knows what she deserves. And here's the thing. Men notice, even if they walk away for a while, even if they try to explore other options, they always circle back. Because when a man encounters a woman who carries herself with quiet confidence, who doesn't beg to be loved or chosen, she imprints herself in his mind in a way that's hard to shake. You see, high standards don't push good men away. They filter the wrong ones out. The truth is, when a man walks away from a woman who has standards, it's not because she wasn't good enough. It's because deep down, he wasn't ready to meet her at her level. And when he's out there, chasing temporary thrills or easier paths, he starts to realize something. Most people don't challenge him to grow. Most people don't expect much. That might feel fun at first, but it's also forgettable. What sticks with him is the woman who didn't bend over backward to be chosen. The one who made him realize that being with her is a privilege, not a right. It's not about arrogance or playing games. It's about quietly and firmly knowing what you bring to the table. A woman who knows her worth doesn't have to raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't need to over-explain herself or prove her value. She simply lives it. She shows it in how she treats herself, how she allows others to treat her, and in the energy she brings into every room. And the thing is, when a man sees that she's not afraid to walk away rather than settle, that's when his mind starts to replay every moment they had. That's when he begins to ask himself if he underestimated her or overestimated his chances elsewhere. Men don't return to women who were always available, always forgiving, always waiting. They return to the ones who were kind, yes, but who also had a quiet strength. The ones who weren't afraid to say, "This isn't enough for me." The ones who didn't scream or beg, but simply stepped back with grace when they weren't treated the way they deserved. That energy of dignity, not desperation, leaves a lasting impression. And when a man matures, when he realizes the difference between temporary fun and long-term value, he starts looking back. And the first woman who comes to mind? It's usually the one who had standards, the one who never tried to convince him of her worth, because she didn't have to. It's that presence, that self-respect, that makes her unforgettable. Even if she's silent, even if she never reaches out again, she lives rent-free in his mind. Not because she tried to, but because she showed him something rare. A glimpse of what it feels like to be with someone who doesn't need him, but chooses him. And once a man feels that energy, it becomes the standard by which he compares everyone else. That's why men return, not because she played hard to get, but because she was hard to forget. And that all started with one thing: her standards. There's a certain kind of silence that speaks louder than any words ever could. It's not cold, it's not angry, it's composed, it's calm. It's the kind of silence that says, "I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it." When a man pulls away, most people react. They panic, they chase, they try to fix things to win him back. But the woman who stays grounded, who doesn't react emotionally or try to force something, instantly becomes unforgettable. Not because she's trying to play games, but because her emotional control shows strength, and that strength, it leaves a mark that doesn't fade. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about having the ability to feel everything deeply yet still respond with clarity and maturity. A woman who doesn't spiral into desperation the moment distance shows up sends a clear message. She values herself too much to lose her peace over uncertainty. That's powerful, because in that moment, when she doesn't chase, when she doesn't plead or cry to be chosen, she does something far more attractive. She makes him wonder, not just wonder what she's thinking, but wonder why she isn't reacting the way others do. And that wonder plants a seed. Men are used to attention. They're used to the reaction. They're used to being chased, begged, or blamed when they pull away. But what they aren't used to is composure. What they don't expect is a woman who gives them space, who lets them go, without drama, without punishment, without trying to manipulate the outcome. That's rare. That's confusing in the best possible way. And confusion creates curiosity. Curiosity pulls him back to the last woman who didn't make him feel like he was the center of her universe. Not out of revenge or ego, but because she had her own center, her own balance, her own life. When a woman stays in control of her emotions, especially during a breakup or a moment of tension, it flips a switch in a man's mind. At first, he may take it for indifference, but over time he realizes it was strength. She wasn't numb, she was wise. She wasn't cold, she was composed. She chose not to lose herself, even if he chose to walk away. That grace, that level of maturity, lingers. It makes everything else he experiences after her feel chaotic or shallow in comparison. And that's when regret begins to build. That's when he starts looking back, trying to remember why he ever left someone who carried herself with such quiet power. A woman who doesn't chase, who doesn't need constant reassurance, who isn't reactive, sends a signal that she is emotionally safe. She is someone who doesn't just want a relationship, she's ready for a healthy one. And that's a huge difference. It takes a high level of self-awareness to not act on every impulse, especially when emotions run high. But the ability to pause, to reflect before reacting, creates an atmosphere where respect is born. And respect is the root of attraction that lasts. Lust fades, attention fades, but respect, that sticks. When a man walks away and doesn't hear from her, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she genuinely refuses to settle for uncertainty, he starts to realize what he lost. He realizes that emotional control doesn't mean a lack of emotion. It means emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is one of the rarest, most magnetic traits a woman can have. It speaks louder than words. Louder than tears, louder than any message she could ever send. It tells him she's not waiting around, she's not broken, she's just in control, and that changes everything. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who isn't easy to figure out. Not because she's playing games, not because she's trying to be difficult, but because she doesn't lay all her cards on the table for just anyone. In a world where people overshare their every thought and feeling in the name of closeness, mystery becomes rare. And anything rare becomes valuable. When a man meets a woman who keeps a little bit of herself tucked away, who doesn't always explain what she's thinking or how she's feeling, it pulls him in. It makes him curious. And curiosity, when it comes to attraction, is everything. Men aren't wired to chase what's already caught. If you give someone everything up front, your time, your attention, your stories, your heart, they may appreciate it, but they won't crave it. Craving comes from wondering. It comes from not knowing exactly what someone is thinking, from trying to earn a place in their world. When a woman becomes an open book too soon, there's nothing left for him to discover, and without discovery, there's no tension, no pull, no emotional investment. But when she reveals herself, layer by layer, over time, she creates a slow burn, and slow burns are the ones that last. Neediness is the opposite of mystery. When a man feels like you need constant validation, constant reassurance, or constant closeness to feel okay, it doesn't create connection, it creates pressure, and pressure pushes people away. Men feel safest with women who are emotionally secure, women who enjoy connection but don't need it to function. If your happiness, your peace, your sense of identity depends on how he's behaving, that's not love, it's fear in disguise, and fear drives people away. But when you show him that your world is full, that you like him but don't need him to be whole, it makes him lean in. Because now, being with you feels like a privilege, not a responsibility. The most unforgettable women are the ones who are selective. They don't just give their energy to anyone. They don't rush into deep conversations or open up their lives to people who haven't earned their trust. And because of that, they become the kind of women men remember long after the connection fades. A woman like that isn't a mystery because she's hiding something. She's a mystery because she values her inner world too much to just hand it over to someone who hasn't proven they can handle it. That's what makes her so different. It's not about pretending to be distant or acting like you don't care. It's about genuinely being grounded in who you are, so you're not in a hurry to attach yourself to someone just because there's chemistry. A woman who lives like that moves at her own pace. She's present in the moment, but she's not emotionally sprinting toward an outcome. And that patience, that restraint, creates tension. It creates space for a man to step up, to pursue, to feel like he's earning her trust rather than being handed it by default. That feeling of earning something is what gives it value. When you hold a little bit back, when you make someone take the time to really see you, to really understand what makes you tick, it builds a deeper connection than words ever could. It makes a man slow down. It makes him think. It makes him want to be chosen. Not because you're withholding affection, but because your attention means something. It's not handed out for free. And when he sees that, when he realizes that the little glimpses you give him are earned, not owed, he doesn't forget it. Or when he realizes that the little glimpses you give him are earned, not owed, he doesn't forget it. Because in a world that gives too much too soon, you're the one who made him work for something real. There's a moment that always hits a man harder than he expects, when he realizes you didn't stop living your life just because he stepped out of it. He thought you'd pause everything, maybe wait around, maybe post a few sad quotes or check his stories. But instead, you got busier, you smiled more, you showed up in the world like nothing broke you. And that's when it hits him. Because men don't always realize what they had until they see that you were never dependent on them to begin with. You didn't need him to be happy. You just chose to share your happiness with him while it lasted. The truth is, people are drawn to others who have full, rich lives. When your schedule isn't revolving around whether or not he texts back, when your happiness doesn't hinge on his attention, you create gravity. Men start to notice that. They notice when you're not sitting around waiting. When you're still going to the gym, still growing your business, still meeting friends, still pursuing your passions, he feels that energy shift. Because now, he's no longer the center of your universe. You are. And that shift in dynamic makes you powerful in his eyes. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're showing him that your life was whole before him, and it's still whole without him. There's something incredibly attractive about independence. Not just the kind where you pay your own bills or handle your own problems. That's basic. The deeper kind. The kind where you find peace in your own company. Where you can go to dinner alone and enjoy it. Where your goals excite you more than a text message ever could. That level of self-possession is rare, and it's what makes a man think twice, because most people aren't like that. Most people lean on relationships to fill a void, but when he sees you don't have one, that you're not seeking someone to complete you, it forces him to look at what he actually brought into your life. Was he adding something, or was he just a distraction? Men want to feel needed, yes, but only in a way that feels healthy. They don't want to feel like your emotional survival depends on their presence. That kind of weight isn't flattering. It's draining. But if you're the kind of woman who chooses a man out of want, not need, that hits different. Because now, if he comes back into your life, it's not because you begged him to. It's not because you broke down without him. It's because you had options and still chose him. That kind of decision carries weight. It creates respect. When you build a life so fulfilling that a relationship becomes the cherry on top, not the entire cake, you stop being just another woman he dated. You become the one who stands out, the one who didn't pause a life when he left, the one who kept growing, the one who didn't reach out, didn't post cryptic messages, didn't sit in silence waiting for him to realize anything. You simply kept moving. And movement is powerful. It shows that your sense of worth isn't based on someone else's presence. It's rooted in who you are, what you love, and the life you've built, with or without anyone's permission. And that's what draws men back. Not the chase, not the sadness, not the silence alone, but the evolution. They come back when they realize you didn't fall apart. That instead of breaking, you got better. You expanded. You thrived. And that's when they begin to miss not just who you were, but everything they lost access to. There's a very specific kind of woman that lingers in a man's mind long after she's gone. The one who was kind, soft, even affectionate, but not always available. Not cold, not distant, but not the type to drop everything the moment he called. She was warm, she cared, she was present, but she also had boundaries. She knew when to lean in and when to pull back, and that balance created something he didn't fully understand at first, but couldn't stop thinking about, because it's rare, and when something is rare, it becomes valuable. That kind of woman doesn't just get remembered, she gets missed. Being sweet and loving is powerful. It draws people in, it builds connection, it creates a feeling of comfort and closeness. But when sweetness comes without boundaries, it loses its power. Constant availability turns into predictability, and once you're predictable, you stop being exciting. Men don't realize this in the moment, but when someone is always there, always ready to forgive, always saying yes, it starts to feel like they don't have to do much to keep her around. That's when they start pulling away, not because they don't care, but because they don't feel the need to earn anything anymore. And anything that doesn't have to be earned eventually gets taken for granted. Now think about the woman who gives with intention. She shows love, but she also knows when to say, not right now. She doesn't reply to every message within seconds. She doesn't jump at every last-minute plan. Not because she's trying to be difficult, but because she has a life, and she respects it. She gives space. She expects respect. And when a man steps back, she doesn't panic. She lets him. That calmness, that control, that quiet self-respect, it creates tension. It makes a man ask himself, Why isn't she chasing me? And that question starts a cycle. Because once a man starts wondering why you're not trying harder, he starts looking at you differently. What many people forget is that healthy attraction needs space. And space isn't the same as distance. It's not about being cold or emotionally unavailable. It's about letting someone miss you, letting them come to you, letting them realize your value without having to spell it out. A man who gets everything handed to him without effort doesn't feel lucky. He feels entitled. But a man who has to step up, who has to earn your time, your attention, your love, he feels fortunate. When a man feels fortunate, he invests. He commits. He shows up differently. So when you're warm, but not always available, you create contrast. That contrast is what keeps you on his mind, because he can't quite predict you. He knows you care, but he also knows you won't tolerate being taken for granted. That duality, the softness combined with strength, is unforgettable. It's the difference between someone who's nice and someone who's valuable. And deep down, every man knows the difference. He might not say it, he might not even fully understand it, but he feels it. He feels it when you don't beg for his time. He feels it when you say no with a smile. He feels it when you're kind but not a pushover. And those moments stick with him long after the conversation ends. When a woman knows how to be emotionally open yet still maintain her boundaries, she becomes the kind of experience a man doesn't want to lose. He may leave, he may get distracted, he may even think there's something better out there, but eventually he'll remember what it felt like to be with someone who gave him warmth, but didn't hand over her soul for free. And that memory becomes a comparison, one that most others can't live up to. There's a quiet kind of strength that is far more powerful than anything you can say or do. It's the ability to walk away when something no longer serves you. It's not about giving up or throwing in the towel. It's about recognizing your worth and deciding that you're not going to settle for anything less than what you deserve. When a woman has the courage to walk away from a relationship that isn't right for her, it's like a silent declaration of self-respect. She's saying, I won't beg, I won't chase. If this isn't working, I will move forward. And that in itself is magnetic. Because walking away isn't just an action, it's an energy. It's the energy of someone who knows that their happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. And that is one of the most attractive qualities a woman can possess. The thing is, when a woman walks away, she's not doing it in anger or frustration. It's not a power move or a way to manipulate the situation. It's simply a recognition that she can't keep investing in someone who isn't fully present, someone who isn't treating her the way she knows she deserves. And this is where the power lies. Because when you choose to walk away, you remove the sense of neediness from the equation. You stop clinging to the idea of a relationship because you realize you don't need it to feel complete. That is what makes men stop in their tracks and rethink everything. They wonder why you didn't fight harder, why you didn't beg, why you didn't try to hold on. And that wondering sticks with them. There's a deep truth about walking away. It's not about saying goodbye. It's about respecting yourself enough to know when something isn't working and choosing not to wait around for things to change. Men often walk away from relationships not because they don't care, but because they know they haven't met the other person's needs or they haven't put in the effort required. When a woman chooses to walk away, it's a reminder to him that love and attention should be earned, not assumed. He starts to realize that maybe he took her presence for granted, and that the lack of her in his life leaves a gap he hadn't anticipated. He starts thinking, I didn't think she would leave. I didn't think she would walk away. I didn't think she would let go. And that realization isn't just a passing thought, it lingers. What makes walking away even more powerful is that it's often done with dignity. There's no scene, no drama, no shouting, no trying to force an emotional response from the other person. The woman who walks away with grace doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. She simply knows when something isn't right, and she chooses herself. She may not even realize it, but in that quiet decision, she shows more strength than any battle she could ever fight. Men can sense that strength. They can sense when a woman has the resolve to stand on her own without relying on someone else to validate her worth. And the moment a man feels that, he begins to look at her in a way he never did before. He begins to respect her more deeply. Sometimes, a man's perspective shifts the moment he realizes that walking away is an option, that someone he thought would always be there, always be available, is now gone. And in that absence, he starts to question his own actions. He wonders if he made a mistake by not treating her the way she deserved. And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that she wasn't just someone he could rely on for affection or attention. She was someone who demanded respect, and the moment she walked away, she reminded him that his behavior had consequences. This power doesn't come from trying to hurt him or make him feel guilty. It comes from understanding that you are worthy of someone who chooses you as much as you choose them. Walking away is the ultimate test of self-worth. It shows that you won't settle. It shows that you value yourself enough to say, if you can't meet me where I am, I'm not going to wait around. And when a man sees that strength, when he feels the gravity of your absence, he doesn't just miss you. He reconsiders everything, and that reconsideration often leads him back to you. In the end, it's the woman who knows her worth, who maintains her dignity, and who values herself enough to not chase or settle, that leaves the deepest impact. Men are drawn to her not because of what she does, but because of what she refuses to do. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't lose herself in the process of seeking validation. She remains grounded, confident, and in control of her own life. And that is the most attractive thing of all. When you act from a place of emotional maturity, independence, and self-respect, you create an energy that makes others want to step up, to earn your time, and to be worthy of your presence. Your absence becomes a catalyst for introspection, and your calm confidence creates a magnetic force that draws people in. Because ultimately, men always return to the woman who is confident enough to walk away when she knows she deserves more. She becomes unforgettable, and that's the kind of power you hold, not by demanding attention, but by living your life with purpose, knowing that you are complete on your own.